So I want to go over something with you guys. This is great information to know and learn before you get into the lineman trade or electrical field. It could be electrician too. This is very basic electrical theory. I'm not going to get into like details of it, but just to show you like the very base level of it, so I at least have an understanding about it, which is good to know. I mean, I wish I would have known this stuff. It's not, hard to learn once you get into the apprenticeship, as long as you're able to learn and retain information. But if you would have known it, if I would have known it before I got into the apprenticeship, that would have been cool. But so we have things called Ohm's law, and an ohm is the measurement of resistance, is the unit for resistance. But so we have an Ohm's law, which we have E over I R and P over I E. So we have Ohm's law and we have the power law. So what do these really mean? Well, I'll go over both of them in as easy as I can to best explain it. So I'll put up in the corner, this is always what I do, E over IR. So we got to know, what does E equals? Well, E in mathematical terms when it comes to an electrical field is E equals voltage or volts, I equals amperage or current, and R equals resistance or ohms. This is the ohm symbol. Amperage or current, and voltage, volts. So you know what E equals, you know what I equals, you know what R equals. So if you get a math term where they're like, hey, I'll show you this right here. They give you what E equals, so they give you 12 volts, and they give you R equals, let's say, just for random, 14 ohms. What does I equal? Well, we can look up here at our problem, and we know 12 equals voltage, or E equals 12. So E divided by R equals I. So we just do 12 divided by 4 equals 3 amps. So we can use that equation of E over IR to figure out what the missing factor is. So I'll give you guys another problem. Let's say I equals 8 and R equals 4. So I equals 8 amps, R resistance equals 4 ohms. What does E equal? Well, we know I times R equals E. So we just do 8 times 4, and 8 times 4 is what? 32 volts is your answer. So E equals 32 volts. And you just use this whole equation to figure anything out. Now the other equation, P over IE, which you literally use the same exact way as Ohm's law, E over IR. We call this pi, the pie chart or pi equation. Same thing, but now instead of having E on top, we have E in the bottom, and resistance is not in this equation. So P equals power or wattage. So, and we know what I equals amperage and E equals voltage. So let's say we are trying to find voltage, but we know P equals 200 watts and I equals 4 amps. What does voltage equal? Well, if we look at the equation, P divided by I equals E. So we just do 200 divided by 4 equals what? 50. Which 200 divided by 4 equals 50 volts. So we know E equals 50. And so those are easy equations, right? I mean, like I said, I always just draw it up in my corner of my paper when I was doing this. So we would know E, let's say we're trying to find I, or it's just we're trying to find power, we're trying to find wattage. So P equals, we don't know, I equals 6 amps, and E equals 24 volts. What does P equal? Well, we know right here that I times E equals P. So we just do 6 times 24, which equals 144, correct? So we know P equals 144 amps, or my bad, watts. So I got my things mixed up. So I mean, you can see use those equations, E over IR and P over IE, to figure out this. And we know P equals power or wattage, E equals voltage, I equals current, amperage, and R equals resistance or ohms. So just knowing at least even those 4 things is pretty key. I mean, that's a big learning like a learning step. Like if you even already know those before you get into it, like that's pretty good to know. And it's super simple. I mean, the 2 charts are very easy to memorize, and hopefully, you know, you can practice these things. You can put in any numbers. They don't have to be specific. If you just put in any number and then just do the math, it's very easy. And you can always use a calculator too. When I was in the apprenticeship, they let us use a calculator all the time. They didn't expect us to like do drawn out. They didn't expect us to like draw it out on paper, you know, doing long division and all that kind of stuff. Like for the most part, we always had a calculator because we always have a phone. So we always have a calculator. So don't expect to be like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do it. I don't have a calculator. Don't worry about the calculator. Just figure out how to actually do the math, and then use the calculator to do the math. So hopefully you can learn the Ohm's law and the power law and memorize E over IR and P over IE. Hopefully, you know, when it comes to if you get into a lineman apprenticeship or maybe an electrician's apprenticeship, you already kind of know the basic, very base level of electrical theory.